the moment between Yoona and Lee Chae-min that shook K-drama fans to the core. It started on a cold night that no one thought would make history. The cameras were rolling, the lights were low, and two actors stood silently on an empty street set. Yoona, the woman known for her grace and composure, stood trembling in the soft mist. Lee Chae-min, the young rising actor praised for his quiet intensity, looked at her as if the world had stopped spinning. The director lifted his hand and said the word that always begins everything and sometimes ends it too. Action. No one knew that this word would blur the boundary between acting and reality, or that this scene would go on to haunt millions. Chapter 1. The scene that changed everything. The script called for heartbreak. A farewell scene between two lovers, quiet, devastating, filled with unspoken pain. Yoona was supposed to cry, say her final line, and walk away. Simple. Controlled. Like every scene before. But that night, something was off. As the camera focused on Yoona's face, her eyes filled with tears before she even began her line. Not the neat, beautiful kind of tears that actors perfect, but real tears, shaking, messy, unstoppable. Her voice cracked. Her hands clenched at her sides. You could feel her breaking. The crew glanced at one another, unsure whether to interrupt. But the director didn't say a word. He could sense something rare happening, something you don't stop once it begins. Lee Chae-min took a slow step forward. He wasn't supposed to. It wasn't in the script. But he did. He looked at Yoona like he wanted to say 100 things but couldn't. Then, quietly, he leaned closer and whispered something no one could hear. Yoona froze. Then, with trembling lips, she whispered back, "Don't do this to me. Not here." The line wasn't in the script. The silence that followed wasn't either. Every person on set felt the same thing, that they were witnessing something they shouldn't. Something too raw to belong to fiction. Chapter 2. The Night That Wouldn't End. When the director finally called, "Cut," nobody clapped. Nobody breathed. Yoona turned away, covering her face. She walked past the crew, her body shaking, muttering a quiet, "I'm sorry." Lee Chae-min stood there, frozen, as if reality hadn't quite returned yet. He looked after her, his expression a mixture of confusion and guilt. For a long moment, no one dared to speak. Later that night, as the crew packed up, a faint tension hung in the air, the kind that comes after something sacred or broken. Some said Yoona left the set without saying goodbye. Others claimed Lee Chae-min followed her car halfway through the city before turning back. No one really knew. But everyone felt it. Something real had happened between them. Chapter 3. The Leak That Shook the Internet. Days later, an unedited clip from that night began circulating online. No one knew who leaked it. It showed exactly what the world wasn't supposed to see. Yoona's trembling, her whispered words, the way Lee Chae-min's hand hovered near her cheek but didn't touch. The sound of her voice, so fragile, so desperate, echoed through millions of screens. Within hours, it dominated every platform. Comments poured in. "That's not acting. You can see it in her eyes. He looks guilty. There's history between them. Was that a confession caught on camera?" TikTok edits, fan theories, and slow-motion analyses exploded. Every second of the scene was dissected, magnified, decoded. People claimed they could read her lips. Others said they recognized the look of someone who had been hurt for real. The hashtag Yoona Lee Chae-min moment trended globally. And suddenly, two actors who had just been co-stars became the center of Korea's biggest emotional mystery. Chapter 4. The Industry Responds. By the next morning, news outlets ran headlines like, "Yoona breaks down in unscripted on-set moment. Lee Chae-min's whisper sparks real-life speculation." The production companies scrambled to respond. Their statement was calm, but detached. The scene was scripted. Both actors are professionals known for their dedication. Please avoid unfounded speculation. But the public wasn't buying it. An anonymous staff member spoke to a reporter off the record. The air that night was heavy. They weren't talking before the shoot. Then suddenly, emotions just erupted. Another staffer added. After the scene, everyone stayed quiet. No one dared look at Yoona. Even Chae-min just stood there, like he couldn't breathe. And so the rumors grew. Some said the two had feelings for each other. Others whispered about an argument before filming. But the truth remained hidden, only visible in their eyes. Chapter 5. The second clip. Just when things started to calm down, another video leaked, this time from behind the scenes, recorded on a crew member's phone. It was short, barely half a minute, but it changed everything again. Yoona was sitting alone near a pile of props, her head down. Chae-min approached slowly, his face tense. He said, quietly, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go that far." Yoona didn't move for a few seconds. Then she whispered, "You didn't have to mean it. You already did." And she walked away. That clip, 30 seconds long, made the internet explode again. People cried watching it. Some said it was the saddest thing they'd ever seen. Others argued it was just acting. But no one could deny one thing: it felt real. Chapter 6. The Divide. The internet split into two sides. One defended Chae-min, saying actors often push emotional limits to bring authenticity. The other said Yoona was emotionally exploited, that the production went too far, that she was truly hurt. YouTubers uploaded breakdown videos. Psychologists analyzed method acting gone wrong. Fan pages debated every frame. Even industry veterans weighed in. A veteran director commented anonymously, "When an actor crosses into real emotion, the result is powerful, but dangerous. You can't always come back from it." And it was true. Yoona didn't. She stopped posting on social media. She withdrew from public events. For 2 weeks, she disappeared from sight completely. Meanwhile, Chae-min continued working, but fans noticed something different. His smiles were smaller, his interviews shorter. Something had changed. Chapter 7. Official Silence. When both agencies finally released statements, the tone was almost identical. Yoona's agency said, "The scene was part of the emotional narrative. Please refrain from misinterpretations and respect the artist's privacy." Chae-min's agency echoed, "Both actors maintain a professional and friendly relationship." But behind the politeness, there was distance. For fans who had watched the footage, those words felt hollow. Because no official line could erase what their eyes had seen, the crack in Yoona's voice, the guilt in Chae-min's expression. An insider from the production whispered later. Yoona asked for a short break after filming. She said she needed to breathe again. When the staff returned for the final shoot, Chae-min was seen sitting on the empty set, staring at the ground for nearly an hour. He said nothing. It was as if the ghost of that scene still lingered there, too heavy to escape. Chapter 8. The trailer that reopened the wound. Weeks later, when the drama's official trailer dropped, fans were stunned to see the same emotional scene included, uncut, unaltered. They hadn't removed a single second. Yoona's trembling, the whisper, the silence, everything remained. It was breathtaking, haunting, unforgettable. Viewers around the world watched, again and again, saying things like, "Now I understand why it felt real. You can't fake that kind of heartbreak." Whatever happened that night changed them both. The clip was nominated for Best Emotional Scene before the show even aired. But more than that, it became a symbol. A reminder that even in scripted worlds, truth sometimes slips through. Chapter 9. The Press Conference. When the drama finally premiered, ratings soared. Every episode drew millions. But all eyes were waiting for the press conference. Would they finally talk about it? The room was filled with reporters. Cameras flashed. The air buzzed with tension. A journalist stood up and asked the question everyone had waited to hear. Was that scene entirely acting? Or was it something more? Yoona paused. The microphone trembled in her hands. Then, with a faint smile, she said softly, "Sometimes emotions go beyond acting. When that happens, the only thing you can do is be honest." The room went silent. Then Chae-min added, his gaze steady but heavy. "That night, we learned something, about trust, about connection, about what it means to be human in front of a camera." No one spoke after that. Because somehow, everyone knew what they meant. They weren't just talking about acting. Chapter 10. What came after? After the press conference, Yoona quietly took a short hiatus. She said she needed time to reconnect with herself. In an interview months later, she was asked what scene from her career she would never forget. She smiled faintly. "There's one that still feels too real to talk about." Chae-min, meanwhile, continued working, but something about him seemed different. He became quieter, more introspective. When asked about his most emotional performance, he simply said, "There was one night I stopped acting and started feeling. It changed me." The interviewer pressed for details. He just smiled and said, "You've probably seen it." Everyone knew which night he was talking about. Chapter 11. The Legacy of a Moment. The drama became a record-breaking success. Awards poured in. Critics praised its realism, its emotional depth. But beyond all that, it was that scene that stayed in people's hearts. Film professors used it in lectures about authenticity in performance. Aspiring actors watched it to understand what truth looks like when it's raw and unplanned. And audiences, they still couldn't let it go. They replayed it at midnight, in silence, whispering to themselves. This was more than fiction. Because somewhere in those trembling voices and tear-filled eyes, people saw their own pain, their own memories, their own love that couldn't be spoken. Chapter 12. The Unspoken Truth. To this day, neither Yoona nor Chae-min have ever clarified what truly happened that night. Some believe they were in love, that the scene was their real goodbye. Others think they simply connected too deeply through their characters. But maybe the truth doesn't matter anymore. Because in that brief, fragile moment, when the camera captured two souls colliding, something eternal was born. It reminded people why they fall in love with stories in the first place. Not for perfection, not for performance, but for the moments when the mask slips and the human heart appears. And that's what this scene became, not just a viral clip, not a controversy, but a testament to what happens when art and emotion become one. As one critic wrote, "It was the moment when fiction surrendered to feeling, and the world stopped pretending it couldn't tell the difference."